Hello and welcome everybody to another and a truly special and a little bit sad episode of What's New in Prisma today. I'm Nicholas. I'm here with Ryan. Hey Ryan, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day here in Canada. How are you doing?
I'm also doing really well. It's very, very sunny in Berlin, very warm. It's up to 34 degrees. I think it must have been the hottest day in the year so far.
Wow.
So that's nice. But Ryan, today is our last show together.
Yeah, this is sad. This is truly sad. This has become a part of my life. This is like, a thing that I come to look forward to every 2 weeks. You and I sitting here chatting with other people. And yes, you're right. This is the last one, which is very sad. But hopefully we can do something together guest-wise in the future,
Yes. And I'm sure that our paths will cross again at some point, how it usually is. And I think because we're both excited kind of about developer education, technology, I think that we're doomed to at one point again probably see each other and work together. And I'm already looking forward to that. But yeah, you will be leaving Prisma in, I think, a couple of weeks, right? You announced it yesterday on Twitter.
But I did, yes. Yep. So next month will be my wrap up with Prisma. And so a few weeks to go. And, it's definitely a bittersweet thing. I'm moving on to some other stuff, which I'll announce at a later point. But Prisma has been excellent. This has been a very special year. Very special because it's been a weird year for a lot of us, of course, because of this pandemic. And, for a lot of us, it's been a hard year and a sad year. But for me, this has been a very interesting year, a very very great in the aspect of work, because Prisma has been awesome. I've really enjoyed my time at Prisma, but a very weird year, of course, because of the pandemic, like everyone else. And it's weird work-wise, I suppose, because I haven't met anyone from the company. I've gone a whole year working at Prisma, not ever meeting in person anyone from the company, which has been a little strange, but it's been amazing. I mean, it really speaks to how remote first is, such a possibility now, being able to work fully remote while still being able to feel like I have great connections with my coworkers. So it's been great that way, and I have truly enjoyed everything that I've been working on at Prisma and all of the people that I've worked with. So it's been a great year in that respect. But yes, some new things coming, which I will be announcing in the next couple of weeks here.
All right. I'm not going to ask any more specifics about this, although I already know some more bits that you shared internally. And I'm very, very excited about this, actually, and very much looking forward to how that's going to play out.
Awesome,
but I'll let you do the actual announcement at some point. I'm not going to spoil anything right now.
Appreciate that. And so why is it the last one for us? Because you as well have got something coming.
Well, I am not leaving the company, but I actually will be on a bit of a bigger break over the summer. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take a 3-month sabbatical, July, August, and September, where I'll be completely off. And it happens that the next What's New in Prisma stream is exactly the 1st of July, which is the first day of my sabbatical. So while you'll be still at the company and you'll likely still do the stream, probably then again with Daniel or Mahmoud or some other peeps from the developer relations team here at Prisma, I won't be there anymore. So today really is the last opportunity for the two of us to be on stream, because in 2 weeks I'll be gone, and then in a month or so you'll be gone. I'll be back in October. But you'll be with your own endeavors then.
Absolutely. And what are you going to be doing during sabbatical? What have you got planned? Anything? Or is it going to be like rest and just let things kind of fall as they may?
That's very well described already. So indeed, I am not making any major plans. So I can tell you what I'm not going to be doing. I'm not going to go and backpack through South America or anything like this. But really my main goal is to spend time away from screens, recharge a little bit. I've been 4.5 years with Prisma now, and it's been a very, very intense time. And I'm super grateful for the opportunity also to take that break and then come back in full shape and re-energized again in October. So the main plan is to get away from screens, and I have some smaller ideas for what I want to be doing.
That's awesome.
So like nothing too big actually.
That's really great. You've been going hard for the last 4 years with Prisma and GraphCool back in the original days. And it's interesting. Like I've seen all the work that you've been doing even well before I was at the company, and you've been pushing. Like this is a well-deserved break, I think. So I'm glad that you're taking some time off.
All right. Yeah. Let's tell our watchers, I guess, listeners, watchers who are like watching right now, what we're planning to do on today's episode.
Yep.
Of course, as usual, we are going through this week's release from Tuesday. So I'll walk through the release notes in just a bit. It was actually a fairly small release, so we won't have too much to talk about today or be showing any demos. After that, because it's our last show together, Ryan, we thought that we'll just spend time together talking a little bit actually about how we got here, both of us, to where we are today, kind of what our major career milestones were, maybe talk a little bit about DevRel in general. And of course, everybody who's watching right now is very invited to drop their questions about that in the chat as well. And then after that, we are going to invite our event manager, Natalia, on stream here to talk a little bit about Prisma Day and what we have planned there, because that's also coming sooner on the time horizon. And in the end, we'll probably also have time again for Q&A, all things Prisma related. So when you have any questions about Prisma that you always wanted to ask, now is also the time to drop them in the chat so that Ryan and I can pick them up towards the end of the stream. All right, but as I mentioned, I'm going to start with the quick release discussion, and I'm going to share my screen for that. And taking the right one this time and also adding it on the stream. There you go. You can see my screen, I think, and it has opened the Prisma repository. We are almost at 100 releases.
Wow.
Not sure if that's something to like celebrate in it by itself, because this is just like the release counter from GitHub. And of course, the actual version numbers that we're putting out are different. But it's just kind of something I noticed that the next one will be a kind of anniversary release for us.
We did hit a milestone recently, I think. Hey, if you look up at the very top right of GitHub, what do you see there? That recently crossed 10K, I think, right? That was pretty recent.
Yes. It's actually like only, I think, a couple of months ago that we crossed the 10K. And interestingly, was it last week or the week before? We gained a lot of stars and have been trending on GitHub as well. So we were like one of the trending repos on the entirety of GitHub. I still don't know whether we figured out where that come from or why we were trending particularly on that day, but it did bring us a lot more stars. So we only recently crossed the 10K, we're now already at 13.6.
That's a big jump.
I think that's the beginning of or like what the beginning of a hockey stick looks like.
Yeah.
All right, so let's very quickly walk through the release notes. I mentioned already that they were rather small. So here is one thing that's improving, I guess, the developer experience when you're working with Prisma Migrate. It is how we are like showing and displaying the drift in your migrations. So you now just get much nicer formatting than before, where it's very clear what is being changed in the schema, and you have a very good and nice and simple overview of that. Today, or with this release, it only was a part of Prisma Migrate Dev, but as far as I understand, we're also planning to bring that to the other Prisma Migrate commands where it makes sense. And then here's another point about Prisma Client Go, which I think a lot of people tend to forget, that we do have a database client that's very similar to the TypeScript client for Prisma for Golang as well. And that also sees constant improvements over time. So while it is still in an early access phase and of course not recommended to be used in production, it is certainly in a usable state. And you should tell all of your Golang developer friends, if you're excited about Prisma already, that they should at least take a look at it and see if they kind of like the approach that we're taking there for Go as well. Well, and that Go client, it now supports .env files, so that you can also define your environment variables using this .env tooling approach. And then I just want to point out one like kind of breaking change, although a minor one, I guess. It is that we are now dropping Node version 10. All our dependencies have already been updated, but now we entirely dropped support. It reached end of life April 30th, so just a couple of weeks ago, I guess. But we decided that we'll also drop support for now. So if you're still running Node 10 or earlier versions and you're using Prisma, then you probably want to go and upgrade. All right, yes, it was a small release. Mostly the reason for that is that our engineering teams are busy working on larger features. In fact, if we take a quick look at the roadmap, we can see what is currently in the works. And I think like one of the really like bigger features that we are currently working on, and that is just requiring a lot of capacity, but is at the same time happening somewhere where it's probably not relevant to all of our current user base, is the support of MongoDB. So we are working on another database connector that we are putting out so that people can also use Prisma with Mongo. All right, that's it for this release. I think we can already go back and yeah, let's talk about a bit about our career paths, Ryan.
Cool.
I don't know too much about where you're actually coming from. I have some sense that you've been part of the Angular community before, but I think one thing that I always like to ask other developers, because I think it already informs a lot of like how to think about their journey, is like how someone got into coding in the first place and
Sure.
why. So yeah. So what was your first like touch point with building software?
My first touch point, the very first touch point for me was first year of university. This was back in 2007, I believe, 2007. I was in university in this program that was kind of a geography program, but it was, I think the official name is Geomatics and Spatial Analysis. That's what my degree is in. So GIS, for those of you who have done stuff with geography and computers, I was in the GIS program. And as part of the program, you had to take at least one programming course. There's a little bit of programming that you might touch upon depending on how deep you go in the GIS industry. But in this program, you had to take at least one course. And so there I am, first year university, a little bit terrified to be there in the first place because I had not done well in high school, mostly because I just didn't pay attention and didn't do any homework and that sort of thing. But very apprehensive to be there in university because I like just barely got into it in the first place. And there I am in my first year computer programming course, and they're trying to teach us Java. And it is going horribly for me. I don't understand anything that's going on. I'm seeing all these words like public, static, void, main, and I have no idea what they do. And I had to basically go to the professor for office hours every week just to try to get him to basically do my assignments for me, is what it turned out to be. And so terrified I was throughout the whole course, thinking that there's no way I could ever like actually do this. I just need to get through this one course and that'll be it. And then I'll never touch programming again. And so somehow I got through it and I passed the course, and that's all history. And I basically told myself, I don't have like the intellect basically to be able to be a programmer. So that's fine. Like I'll do my geography stuff and my GIS stuff and whatever. And I'd started working in that industry after graduation, and I was starting to think about like where else I could go with it. I was seeing pretty quickly that it was a little bit limiting in terms of like career depth and like where you could, you know, take those skills and everything like that. I mean, there's lots you can do in GIS and there's lots of areas you can go into. But what I kept hearing over and over again is that if you really want to expand your skills and, you know, get better jobs and stuff like this, what you should do is really be a programmer as a GIS analyst so that you can customize the software that you're working with, because there's extensions in this software in Python specifically so that you can automate tasks and do all sorts of stuff like that. And so I started to take that a little bit more seriously, and I came across I was looking on a website trying to get a map to display on a web page, basically, is what I was trying to do. I was trying to figure out how to make that happen. And maybe you know this company, Mapbox. Have you heard of Mapbox before? Yeah. So this was early days for them. I happened upon their documentation, I guess, and it sticks out so starkly in my memory that there was this line in their documentation that said, if you don't know JavaScript, is what it said. I didn't really know what JavaScript was, but if you don't know JavaScript, we're not going to teach it to you. We're going to leave that to Codecademy. And they put a link to Codecademy. I clicked on that link. And from that point in the year 2012 till now, that's my journey, basically. Clicking a link to Codecademy, learning the basics of HTML, then CSS, a little bit of JavaScript, and then getting interested in it, liking what I was doing, then going and finding more courses and more stuff to do. Eventually getting to the point where I was making WordPress websites, started to sell those skills a little bit, making WordPress websites for clients. Then in 2015, I had been sort of noodling around with more advanced stuff and getting into Angular JS and stuff like that. But I wasn't in the tech industry at that point. I was working in government. I was doing mapping and GIS for government. But I was writing blog posts because I had been learning that that's a thing that you should try to do when you're wanting to get into this industry, is you should write about what you're doing, and you should share your knowledge and your skills. And I ended up.
Where did that inspiration come from, though? Since I think that this is not an intuition that necessarily all developers have, that there even is something like a developer community. So I, for example, found out about developer communities also just like fairly late, actually, by just listening to podcasts where they were suddenly talking about conferences and meetups. And I was like, hey, there is a thing there where I can connect with other people doing the same thing. So how did you like even find the inspiration to go and educate other developers?
So that must have come from me absorbing that material that had been done before me prior, and finding benefit in that, and realizing that, you know, this has been beneficial. So you might ask then, like, well, and this was my outlook, is like I'm learning things from these articles that people are writing, but I don't have the expertise to be able to write things of my own. But my perspective on that got shifted a lot when I would come across people talking about in places like Twitter, right? Because I would learn from various people that if you want to hear about what's going on in the tech industry, Twitter's a good place for that. And there's other places you can learn about what's going on as well. And I would hear every now and then that if you want to develop your skills, and if you want to really solidify your knowledge, a good way to do that is to write what you're learning. And so then you can remind yourself and you can inform other people, and all of these great reasons. And so I kind of broke through this wall of like self-doubt and thinking I couldn't, you know, write this stuff. And I ended up writing some articles, and I ended up submitting some articles to Scotch.io. I think you're familiar with Scotch, and you know Chris from Scotch. Chris and I have become great friends since then. And I was one of the first guest authors on Scotch. They opened up this guest author program. I submitted some articles. Take that up to 2015, where Auth0, I'd heard of them like around Twitter, and they were really just getting going at that time, back in 2015. They're one of the early employees there, Gonto. He put out a tweet saying they had just raised some funding and they're doing a lot of hiring, and they're looking specifically for content writers. So people who want to go research topics in technology and write content around them. And I looked at that tweet and I was like, that's the way I'm getting into this industry. That is the job for me. Basically, I've been doing this for a while now. This has got to be my job. And so I emailed them. I said, here's the work that I've done. I had happened to just recently have written stuff on the topic of authentication and authorization in like a Laravel context. And so I said, here's an article that I just did that's right up your alley, essentially. And quickly from there, I was hired on. That was a very, I would say, pretty quick process of getting hired at Auth0. So I guess like right place at the right time, having done some of the right things is how I got into Auth0, and spent a great 2.5 years there. After that, went out on my own to do some consulting and building software for companies, and then to Prisma last year. That's kind of the short history of things for me.
Very nice. And one aspect I found interesting about this story is also when you said that what effectively first brought you into coding was this one click in the documentation of Mapbox that linked out to Code Academy. And basically being on the other side of like someone who also writes technical documentation, I find it very interesting because like, I bet that this person didn't really think about it. It was just like, okay, here are some basics. Well, whoever is coming here should understand them. I'll just send them off to Code Academy. Yep. And probably didn't really think about it even that they put in this link. It wasn't part of just like the approach to educating their users about how to use Mapbox. It was just a very spontaneous thing that the one person writing that piece of documentation decided at that moment.
Yep. It's wild, and it spawned like a whole career change and a whole new trajectory. And like really, like I guess you could say, I mean, there's a lot of other steps that had to come, but you know, that one line of documentation with a link really changed my life, like for all intents and purposes, right? It really changed the trajectory. So so thank you to whoever wrote that doc at Mapbox. So yeah, that's a bit about mine, but I'm curious to hear about yours. How did you get into it? I think you studied computer science or something similar, right?
Yeah, not computer science, but a mix of business and information technology. And the university I was at, it was more focused on the business side, actually. So a lot of people were actually coming to that university to study business, but it had a really good reputation also for business, and it wasn't easy to get in. So some people just took the route of to still study business, go there and study business psychology, or like me, business and information technology. And well, like for me, I actually could have gotten into the business track, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do after high school. And like, I wasn't a programmer at all at high school. I also like wasn't particularly good at math. So the reason or why I like studied this mix of information technology and business was really because I thought, okay, I don't know what I want to do, so I guess I'll do business just because lack of ideas. But I didn't want to study just business because I thought, okay, I don't have, or like I don't see much value in like actually going to university for 5 years and not coming out with any kind of really hard skill that I could apply somewhere. So that's how I got into these studies in the first place. And very quickly into the studies, I also kind of noticed that I find the technical part a lot more interesting and a lot more fun than the business part. So from that point onwards, I basically try to always have a job on the side as a programmer to just get exposed to more kind of programming concepts. But it really took like 3 or 4 semesters until I really understood kind of what software engineering even was. The classes that we had in the first semesters were also just basics of computer science, basics of programming. I could very well relate to what you said, your first programming course, teaching Java, seeing all these very foreign words and having no idea what this is even used for.
Yep.
So like that concept of software development, I really only understood it, I think, in the third or fourth like semester, when for the first time we had to apply that knowledge. We had a group project where they handed us a sheet with requirements, and we had to build a like software application for like the real world kind of.
Nice.
Yeah, and from like then point like onwards, I actually got into mobile development with iOS.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So that's actually my background as a developer, I would say, because at university we weren't educated to become software developers, like really what the majority of the people I studied with in the end became were IT consultants and would typically work at companies like Accenture or IBM, SAP, were like kind of the big companies that recruited at my university. So if you wanted to become a software engineer, it was clear to me that like I had to do like some things on the side. So I tried to have jobs on the side where I was working as a mobile developer, built my first app, I think in 2014, that I uploaded to the App Store like all by myself. And these were the kinds of experiences that really got me hooked on programming and on software development in general. But at the same time, I also realized that I enjoyed talking about code always at least as much as coding itself.
Right.
So try to think of myself already pretty early, also in the role of an educator, helping other people at university. At some point in my master's, I became a tutor for these confused first semesters that had to deal with these foreign words in Java.
Nice.
So yeah, that was the part until then. And then after I graduated from like university, it actually was pretty clear to me that I wanted to work in San Francisco back then. Because as I became part of the mobile developer community, and was listening to podcasts and just exploring all the interesting companies in the space, no matter like where I looked, it always seemed that all of the interesting stuff is happening in San Francisco.
Right.
And I felt so drawn to like the city back then that it became my goal to like kind of work there. Then after a year or like 9 months after I had graduated, I got a job in San Francisco, actually. So I worked there for 6 months as an instructor at sort of a boot camp. So again, in the realm of like developer education, was helping people there to build their first like mobile apps as well. And then I returned to Germany. That was in late 2016. And the way how I then joined back then GraphCool was very coincidental, was just because Tim, who just today is launching a Graph CDN, like for everyone who hasn't upvoted them on Product Hunt or Hacker News yet. Yeah, you should like totally do that. So it was Tim who brought me to GraphCool back then, because we worked together at some point for 2 months during our studies. He was studying in a different city.
Oh, so you knew him before?
Yeah, exactly. We met for 2 months at a project we did together at a German publisher where we worked together for 2 months in like Munich. So he was kind of an acquaintance. And so in late 2016, I knew that he was working in Berlin at this new GraphQL startup. And at that point, I reached out to him because I was in Berlin for a couple of days. Reached out to him, went for lunch with the team, and the next day they called me and asked me if I wanted to do a trial period with them and help educate their users about GraphCool and GraphQL. I started there a couple of days later, and then also immediately went on for the full-time contract and have been working here since.
That's great. Excellent. Yeah. It's interesting to hear that story, because I sense that like you had that inclination to teach from the early days, right? And I've had a similar kind of thing. Like for me, it wasn't always so clear that I wanted to educate. Like that wasn't what I set out to do necessarily, but I had an interest in that area. I think for me too, like a big reason that I wanted to take that, once I got it kind of into the industry, like that was my way in, right? Like I mentioned earlier, is because I had this opportunity to write content and educate through it. I kind of, by, I guess, de facto, I was a teacher in that respect. But I saw, like, as I was getting going, that like being strictly an engineer, like on a core product or only writing code in a job. That's not the only way to participate in the industry, right? Especially, and even when it comes to like being a developer, like there's tons of positions at startups that you might have, but there's also tons of positions that involve code that aren't strictly engineering roles, or strictly developer roles. And so I think at first I saw it in this respect where it's like, if I don't have the chops to be like an engineer on a product, there's still other ways that I can participate. So that's cool. But even now, as I progress in my knowledge and my skills, and I'm sure having a strictly engineering role would be fine. I still now because I've been doing it for a while now, teaching just comes like, I think naturally, like that's where I gravitate towards, because I've been doing it for a while, and I don't know, I get a kick out of being able to share knowledge and help expand other people's knowledge and enable other people to do things. That really motivates me. That really gets me a lot of satisfaction in my job. And so I wonder, like for you, what's the motivator, I suppose, at this point for wanting to continue teaching, continue being in a role where you are educating, like primarily?
To be honest, for me, I think it's the reward of seeing other people succeed with the feedback that I was able to like provide to them. And if I see that I can help somebody else to do a better job in whatever they're doing, I find this tremendously rewarding. So that is like certainly one motivation, like how I want to, or like why I like went down that route. And I think in the days before, or in like when I started to like realize that I like doing this, the way how I realized it was that I just started talking to my friends about this, like partly like non-technical friends. And it was in the days as I just got into like programming and developed my first understanding of it. And it was always just so nice to talk to them and very slowly basically explain to them kind of the fundamentals of programming, and maybe showing them a terminal and what it even means to run a command like cd and like these kinds of things. And I always really, really enjoyed these kinds of conversations, I guess. What was kind of the initial motivation there, really triggering these aha moments. And later that has evolved towards really like enjoying other people succeed, and ideally being able to contribute to that success. And that's why I think the role like here at Prisma is just perfect, because I can do that on so many ways. I can do that with our users through the kind of direct interaction. But recently, as we've been growing the team, I've also enjoyed just providing feedback to colleagues and helping them develop to like kind of deliver better work ultimately.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. I have one more question, and then I think we can bring on Natalia here. But one thing that I'm curious as we talk about developer education is, what do you find the hardest part, or kind of the major challenges when you think about educating developers, or just some hard parts in general? Like what comes to mind for you?
So there's a few things that come to mind. One of them that's always been a challenge, experienced this everywhere I've been, is explaining something and trying to meet the developer at the level that they are at. So there's gradients, right? If somebody asks a question or they're having a problem, you can choose many different ways to answer it. You can either take the perspective that they may need like the basics, so you may need to like tell them all of the ground level stuff before giving them the solution, or maybe they're an intermediate level and then you can just skip some of those steps, or maybe they're advanced, right? This, especially when it comes to things like documentation, I find documentation or articles, it becomes difficult to meet the needs of a very wide audience, right? Because you have to pick. I don't think it's realistic to try to meet the whole audience on exactly the level that they are that they want at any given time, right? In terms of like how advanced the knowledge you're sharing is, or how much groundwork you lay down before you give them like the meat of it, if that makes sense. But it's always been a challenge. How advanced you should communicate, and I default to trying to explain things in a way that would be consumable by any kind of audience, right? Like a novice programmer might come in and might need to take other steps. Maybe I provide links to other things. Like I got that link to Codecademy from Mapbox. Maybe you do some of that, but it's just very hard to figure out exactly the level you should try to communicate at. Yeah. That's what I found. Have you experienced that yourself?
Yeah, your answer was actually 100% spot on as to how I would have answered it as well, and we didn't talk about it up front. So
there you go.
It's funny how. So I think in the realm of developer education, you kind of come to that conclusion from your own experience, that it's just very hard to figure out the level of understanding the person that you're trying to teach currently has, and then trying to really dock on exactly there, basically. And that's why my personal kind of teaching is just the personal interaction, because there I can ask these kinds of clarifying questions up front. I can ask, are you already familiar with X, before I start assuming that the person indeed is familiar with it. And like these kinds of very personal interactions there are my favorite part about teaching. And it's also like what I really, really like is when the person I'm talking to and that I'm trying to teach something is kind of thinking ahead and asking the right questions that tell me that they're on the right track, that they are in the process of understanding this, and that they understood everything that I've explained already. And that now, as I'm now going to explain the next thing, why, is that they already thought about why and come up with that question first and think, oh yeah, but how would you handle why then, assuming that X is already happening, something like this.
Yep.
So
that's interesting. Yeah, it's a challenge, I think, any way you slice it, and it's well beyond our industry too. It happens in many different industries, I think. The other thing that comes to mind for me just quickly is like this feeling that it's hard, like especially part of the job that we do is we'll hop into the public Slack community that we've got and try to help people with issues that they're facing, and sometimes those issues get like really into the weeds, and the reason for the problem they're encountering might take a long time to debug. And when you start to have many people that are having issues, maybe it's with their local setup, maybe it's their specific environment that's the problem, or whatever, it gets difficult to, I find, for me, it causes a little bit of stress trying to figure out how to best manage that, because you can't spend your whole day trying to debug like one issue for one single person. So this, I think, for those of you who are thinking of getting into DevRel, or maybe those of you who are in DevRel, or maybe those of you who aren't, but you're wondering what we think about when we interact with the community through a DevRel lens, is like, yeah, sometimes it can be challenging to try to meet the needs of the entire community if your time is limited as a developer advocate, right? So that's one thing that I found, especially at Prisma.
All right, great discussion, Ryan. Thank you. I think that was very worthy of our last show together to exchange a couple of thoughts in that area. All right, and with that, let's talk about some Prisma stuff again, and let's talk about Prisma Day with our event manager, Natalia, who is the mastermind behind Prisma Day, I think you could say. Hey, Natalia, good to see you.
This is I. Hi. Good to see you too. It's a thrill. It is very, very bizarre to be on the other side of the glass this time. I am usually very comfortable hanging out with the nameplates in the backstage, but now it is I that is being broadcasted, and that brings a little bit of stress, but I hope that I will do well.
That's amazing. Yeah, welcome to the stream. All right, before we start talking about Prisma Day, maybe quickly introduce yourself for the people that are watching that have no idea who you are, and like maybe when you joined Prisma and how you came to be the events manager.
Yes. Ooh, a big one. I wasn't prepared for that. So I joined Prisma about 2 years ago. And actually, the first thing that I did for Prisma, I was a contractor, and it was for Prisma Day. 2 years ago, I was contracted to make about 15 kilograms of potato salad, and we got some pretty good reviews for this potato salad. I got asked for the recipe a couple of times, so my first task for Prisma was a huge success, you can say. Fast forward 2 years. But yeah, I started Prisma as a potato salad maker. Then I got hired as an as an office manager. I was responsible for moving furniture around. Then it moved to cooking lunches for the team, just making it really funny and nice in the office. And then as the pandemic hit, I got promoted to events manager. It's a weird moment to be promoted to events manager, you would say, but I made it work with our TypeScript, GraphQL, and Prisma meetups that we did online. And now the wait is almost over, and very soon we'll be able to do these in person. This is something that I've been really waiting for. And my background, we were talking about education. You said, Nico, that you would be opposed to leaving university without any hard skill. Well, this is what I did. I am an educated fashion manager.
All right.
So I was giggling when you were talking about it. So I was like,
well, I would say that with fashion, you get highly specific domain knowledge, at least, that I didn't see at like in the business track. So yeah, I wouldn't probably kind of dismiss that here.
well, I'm not using these skills anymore. I have new, better ones.
All right. But anyways, you have been doing a really great job here so far
Thank
as an
you.
events manager, and you managed, or like you mentioned already, the events that you have been managing. So we're hosting a lot of different meetups, the GraphQL Berlin meetup, the TypeScript Berlin meetup, Connect Dev Africa is the newest edition.
Right. But I cannot take credit for that. This is all Alex Rouhani's job, who joined us just recently. So I'm not taking credit for that. It's all Alex's job, and it is a wonderful job.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you'll appreciate that, but I think the two of you are definitely involved there.
We are dynamic duo for sure.
All right, let's move on to talking about Prisma Day and what people can expect there, because that's coming up in 2 weeks already.
Yes.
Yeah, can you just give an overview maybe of the things that are planned at Prisma Day this year? And maybe if it's helpful, I can share my screen and maybe just show the website and walk through it at the same time. Like, should we do that, or?
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
All right, then.
So you want to share a screen with the page, yeah?
Yes, exactly. I'm showing the Prisma Day page so that we can show people at the same time what they can be expecting.
Let's do that. I will make a short introduction already. So what is planned for Prisma Day? What is not planned for Prisma Day? The schedule is bursting at the seams. We're really gonna do a lot of stuff. Maybe I will start with the numbers. I have some numbers prepared. I had to write it down. We are going to have 19 workshops, 16 talks. There's 38 speakers involved in total. So this is for the wow effect. And now to tell you a little bit closer when it's going to happen and what's going to happen exactly. So on the 29th of June, that is a Tuesday, we will have our workshop day. And in this day, we will have a workshop titled a practical introduction to Prisma in very many different languages, in 11 languages to be precise. The earliest slot is Asian languages, that is to accommodate their time zone, of course. We have Korean, Japanese, and Chinese, so very attractive, just super fun, and it will be a great content to have later. At 2 p.m., here we go with European languages. We have what you can see on screen. Everybody can register to these, and these will happen at the same time. So if you just so happen to speak English and Polish, you're going to have to choose. But all the workshops will be recorded, so you will be able to catch it later for entertainment or clarification or whatnot. Then we're going to have a coffee break, and then we are back on with our backend workshops. So we have Yves Porcello talking about GraphQL. We have Ryan with Lee Robinson teaching us about Next.js with Prisma. And we will also have Mark Stammer-Johan talking about Nest.js with REST. Super exciting, very knowledge-loaded workshops, I would say. And then a coffee break and kind of, I don't know if chilled workshops, but definitely entertaining ones. So we decided to give a stage to frameworks and tools that work well with Prisma. These are the community workshops, and there's 5 of them in total, and they are all happening at the same time too, but worry not. You will be able to watch them online later as we are recording these. So we have the Wasp brothers, so Mattia and Martin Sausage. We have Melissa McGregor with Redwood. She's also a speaker on the next day. We have Yuval with Amplification. There's Jed Watson joining us from Australia at 4 a.m. That is 4 a.m. for him. He's going to be there live. I told him, Jed. He said,
you don't have to do this.
He's doing it on his own will. I swear I didn't force him. He really wanted to do it.
Yeah, fair enough. He also has been on this stream already in the past, and he also did it completely voluntarily. So
Jed is a trooper, that's for sure. And we have Simon Gnott telling us about Blitz.js. And this is going to be a wrap on Tuesday. And then we can have a lion on Wednesday because the conference talks are starting at 2 p.m. only. Daniel Norman will be our host. And we have a full array of talks. There's a pretty strong Jamstack streak, I would say this year. The lineup, the lineup is online. The times are still kind of approximate, but it is more or less what it will be. There's yours truly, Natalia, speaking about events at Prisma. So if you're interested more about what we are doing now, what we did and what we will do, there's a big... I keep doing gestures with my hand, but the camera is mirroring it and you cannot see it. So sorry, where was I? Okay, there's going to be a big reveal, big surprise when it comes to events in Prisma, and it will all be revealed 30th of June in my talk, and a lot of other super, super exciting stuff. So I encourage everybody to check out the lineup, sign up to get the news as well. And the raffle.
All right.
The raffle. You have to follow our Twitter to know what's going on with the raffle. We are revealing the prizes one by one. I cannot reveal much, but today we have revealed one. Okay. So we have a T-shirt, and also today we have revealed the could you actually go to Twitter and tell me how much it is? I think the sum is $150. That is us.
Yeah. So I saw this tweet before. I think it's 150. This one, right?
Yeah, $150 of donation to an open source product of your choice. So a very wholesome raffle prize also, and there's going to be more. And to enter the raffle, quote, retweet one of these tweets and sign up to Prisma Day.
Nice.
So that's all, folks.
Awesome.
All right. Natalia, for the people that joined Prisma Day already last year, is there anything in particular you think that will be different this time, or how do you think about that?
The setup. I think that the main difference is the volume. There's just more stuff. And what else is different? Well, yeah, so more stuff basically. And we will also entertain the attendees during the breaks, which was not the case last year. Last year, we had a great music, I think, during the breaks, right? People were commenting the playlist is fire, right? So this year we will also have a little bit of good tunes, but we also have fun stuff during the breaks, so nobody will be bored. And I can also say, I cannot say much, but there will be a furry guest appearance. So if anybody likes animals, I think everybody likes animals. So stay tuned for the breaks in Prisma Day. Okay, so I guess the furry guest is one of the differences.
I hope the furry guest has 4 legs. not 8.
Well, like a tarantula.
Yeah, I hope for the same.
It is a friendly fairy.
All right. And you personally, like Natalia, what are you looking forward to mostly in the event? Is there anything specific?
The fun bits, obviously, the breaks and the fairy guests. If I was going to choose my favorite speaker, I couldn't, because I love all my speakers just the same. But there is someone really special. It's an underdog. You gotta love an underdog. There's a high school kid called Sam Poder. He is 16 years old. He's going to be doing a talk on Prisma and Next.js, and he is the most charismatic, well-prepared, professional, dedicated people I have met. So I'm really looking forward to that, and he's definitely somebody to watch. So I'm super happy to have him on board.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm also looking forward to Sam's talk. Before we let you go, Natalia, is there maybe a behind-the-scenes fun fact or something about Prisma Day that you can share? Or
Yes,
I wrote like that question in the preparation. I don't know if you've prepared an answer. If no, we can just let you go.
I have, and I have even prepared a prop for it. So
all right.
I think the fun part will be that. So if you've been around Prisma for a while, you know that we love stickers. Stickers are our thing. We keep sending you stickers. You can order stickers. We have different designs. It is a sticker galore over here. And for Prisma Day, we have super special stickers that you will be able to order on a day. And the fun fact about it is that we do not have any production line, or there's no machine behind it. It is our dear office manager Julie sitting and putting these stickers in envelopes one by one. So there's a lot of dedication from Julie. And to illustrate, I have brought the said stickers.
Wow.
Even the camera is doing the mirror thing, right? Oh no, it's looking good. It's looking good. Cool. So you can get that during Prisma Day. Hit us up.
Amazing. So everybody who gets these in their mail, appreciate them, because it's literally just like hand, like manual labor that went into it.
So it is.
And I think that makes up the value of
labor of love, though.
Yes, with a lot of love from our office manager, Julie.
That is true.
Natalia, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll see you around on Slack. Bye-bye.
See you around.
Thank you. See ya.
All right, let me rearrange the nameplates here. There we go. That was awesome. First time having Natalia on the stream, and not only as a small screen in the backstage area of StreamYard, which is the software that we're using to record this. So that was awesome.
Very good, very good.
All right, Ryan, I think in our last show today, we don't have much left, but picking some questions that people dropped in their comments. So let's see if we can answer a few of them. Let's go with the latest ones, actually, because that can get a quick answer, I think. For Film Coin asks, is there a plan of getting the Nexus plugin back? And yes, we are actually already working on that, and it is being developed in a repository that I'm going to share in a second here in the chat. We are working on the new version of the Nexus Prisma plugin. It'll work a little bit different compared to how the current version works. So it'll not be a plugin that you put into Nexus when you create the GraphQL schema instance with Nexus anymore, but instead it'll be a generator that you define in the Prisma schema, and that will actually go and generate code for you. And I think it's already available as a first kind of preview or early access version. In fact, we're planning to have the main developer on that plugin on the show very soon. So he will join us soon, Jason Kurt, who is currently working on that. Will the team mapping be the same way as in the old version? I don't think so. I think it'll work different. The way how you project Prisma fields and also CRUD operations will certainly work differently, and it will come with breaking changes. All right. There were a couple of questions about MongoDB support in the beginning of the stream. So Algorithm Academy and Seren Mods wanted to know about MongoDB. We have released it in early access already, so people can start using the first version. I think a preview release, so kind of entering the next maturity stage of our releases, is planned, I think, for July. Sometimes in July it's going to happen most likely, but for the general availability release, so that it's really production ready and should be used by everyone, I guess it'll still be a couple of weeks, probably even a couple of months. Yeah. But here also the good news is that you can help us accelerate that process by actually going and testing it and creating issues, getting in touch with our engineering and product teams to make sure that we know what the issues are and can fix them.
One note on Mongo for those who are interested. I will be working on a video, maybe even a couple of videos about Mongo before I head out. So stay tuned for that. That'll be next month at some point.
Awesome. All right. Vivek asked about the Prisma Day workshops. Will the sessions be recorded? A few of them are at the same time, and they would like to watch both. Yes, all of the sessions will be recorded, and you can find them on. You will be able to find them on the Prisma YouTube channel, where you're watching this right now. This is a specific question from Alex C. How far in the roadmap implementing the point coordinates field type support? Is there some technical limitations which stops implementing this? To be honest, I don't know. I'm not that deeply in our product and engineering process. So I think we'll probably have a GitHub issue that is talking about this. If not, then Alexei, you're more than invited to create a new one. And otherwise, I think the best place is to ask in the GitHub issue, or even drop a link to the GitHub issue in our Slack, and then our engineers can take it from there. All right. There are a couple of more questions, but I think we are coming close to the end of today's stream. And everybody who has unanswered questions, I would encourage you to go to the main Prisma repository and drop these questions as a GitHub discussion. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong link because it's in the Nexus Prisma repo. This was the link that I meant to drop. So if you have any further questions about Prisma, then it's always best to go to GitHub discussions, create a new question there. And then if you feel that there is a bit more, or that you maybe want to have a faster answer, or it seems like nobody's ever looking at GitHub discussions, which hopefully shouldn't appear because we have people kind of monitoring that. But if that's the case, then you can always grab the link to the discussion you created and drop it in our Slack, and then hopefully other people will be able to help you there as well. All right, Ryan, I think we're coming to the end. It was a great time that I had with you running the stream for almost a year.
Absolutely.
And I wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. And the same goes for you. I've really enjoyed this. This has been a very special part of my time at Prisma and of my career ultimately. So thank you for this, Niko. And I wish you all the best on your sabbatical and after that. And I hope that we can get together in the not too distant future. I'll come over to Berlin, or you come over to Ottawa or something, and we'll hang out.
For sure.
Awesome.
All right, Ryan. Have a good one. Bye.
Take care.